Hey there, hope you're doing well. It's Wendy from Worldwide Speak, and in this video we're going to cover direct and indirect thesis statements, what they are, and give you a couple of examples of each of them. All right, are you ready? Let's learn. Okay, so let's just review real quickly what the thesis statement is. That's the most important part of your essay. It's the argument or the point that you're trying to make. Your entire paper centers around this one critical sentence. And lastly, it is typically the last sentence in your introduction paragraph. If you remember from my essay overview, I made some videos on that if you haven't seen them yet, and it goes over the structure of a basic essay. Well, our introduction paragraph I liken to a triangle, an inverted triangle, because we start out big with a big general statement, and then we narrow our focus with some background information about the topic. And then the most focused point of the triangle is your thesis statement. And that is where the thesis statement goes. It's typically, most always, the last sentence of your introduction paragraph because it is the most specific. All right, so now we remember what the thesis statement is and where it goes, its placement. Let's talk about the difference between direct and indirect thesis statements. Well, a direct thesis is sometimes known as a stated thesis, and here's why. It tells the reader exactly what you will talk about in your essay. There's no guessing for this reader. This reader knows specifically what you're going to speak about. And then because it clearly states the reasons or points or parts that you're going to discuss in your paper. Like the water in this picture below me, it's very clear. You can see all the way down to the bottom. That's like your paper. It outlines the entire paper for your reader in that one sentence. It's clear. The reader can see where you're going to start and where you're going to end up because you have listed your reasons or points or parts that you're going to speak about or write about in your paper. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of examples of this direct thesis statement. So here's a thesis statement. It's a direct thesis statement. Let's say I'm writing an argumentative paper about having a school uniform policy, and I'm stating that I am for the school uniform policy. So here's what my direct thesis statement would look like for my essay. Having a school uniform policy is the best option for educational settings because it builds a strong sense of community, provides potential cost savings on clothing, and creates a safer learning environment. So that thesis statement, it has three parts. It has the topic, my position, and reasons. And, the topic is the school uniform policy. My position is that it's the best option. That's very clear. And then I list exactly what my three reasons are. So when the reader reads this focused and clear thesis statement, they know exactly the three things that I'm going to talk about that supports why school uniform policy is the best option. There is no confusion about the topic or my point of view or the reasons that will be discussed because I used a direct thesis statement. Let's take a look at another one. Let's say I'm writing a direct thesis statement for a cause and effect essay, and it's about online learning. In this thesis statement, I say extended amount of blue light exposure, lack of true social connection, and inconsistent delivery due to power issues are some negative effects of online learning. So, the topic, online learning. The focus here, I focused on negative effects as opposed to having positive effects. And then I tell you 3 specific negative effects of online learning: blue light exposure, lack of social connection, and inconsistent delivery because of power issues. So again, this direct thesis statement tells the reader exactly what I'm going to discuss in my paper. There's no guessing. This isn't unclear. It's very focused. So these are 2 very strong, clear examples of direct thesis statements. All right, we talked about the direct thesis. Now it's time to talk about the indirect thesis. So why is this an indirect thesis or an implied thesis? Well, it tells the reader that there'll be evidence, but not specifically what it is, as opposed to the direct thesis where you tell them exactly what your reasons are. It leaves the reader kind of wondering how you're going to support this thesis, so they need to read on to figure that out. So you remember that picture in the direct thesis statement with that beautiful, clear ocean water where you could see all the way to the bottom. Well, the indirect thesis is more like the muddy waters that you see in the picture below me. It's water and you know it's there. You just don't know what's at the bottom or what's in the water. You're curious about it, but you're not certain what it contains. That is like an indirect thesis. It doesn't outline the paper for your reader. It is a little more of a mystery. All right, let's take a look at a couple of examples for the indirect thesis statements. First, do you remember the topic of the school uniform policy from the direct thesis statement? Well, what I did is I just took that direct thesis statement and I made it indirect so that it would be a little more clear for you with an example. So if I'm going to take that direct statement and make it into an indirect one, it would look like the one you see here. Having a school uniform policy is the best option for various important reasons. It still has the 3 essential ingredients for a strong and clear thesis statement. There's the topic, school uniform policy. There's my point of view, my opinion. My argument is that it's the best option. And then there are the reasons. And I say for various important reasons, but I don't tell you what they are. This is why it's indirect, like the muddy waters. It's the mystery. The reader needs to read on in your essay to figure out how you're going to support this argument or this point of view. Now, if you remember, the second example I gave you in the direct thesis statements was about online learning. Let's make that one indirect as well. So it would look like this if I were going to write that as an indirect statement. As society moves towards more online learning, it is vital to understand some negative effects of this type of education. Again, the pieces are all there. It just looks a little bit different. The topic is there, that's online learning. The focus on negative effects is there because this is a cause and effect thesis statement. Negative effects will be the focus. And then I tell the reader that there are going to be some reasons for this, but I haven't told the reader what they are. Again, it kind of piques the curiosity of the reader to continue on to find out how I'm going to explain these negative effects and what they are. All right, we did it. We now know the difference between direct thesis statements and indirect thesis statements. And you can now choose which one you want to use in your essay. So please leave me a comment or a question down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and remember to turn on your notification bell. We look forward to seeing you again, and until the next time, see you later.